If there's something Kaiju love, it's a good fight. So let's give good old Gamera a suitable opponent. Gyaos. Hey everyone! Gyaos is a recurring Kaiju from the Gamera movies, known for its valiant demeanor and iconic look, and its constant design changes across years of movies give us a lot of fun stuff to work with. So let's take a look at what a Speculative version of this Kaiju could look like. Please like, hype and subscribe to help our videos make it big. And now, without further ado, let's get started. Aggressivity can be something hard to gauge in animals, as their reaction to our presence can vary a lot from individual to individual, and it can be based on a variety of instincts and feelings, such as fear, territoriality, or, in some more extreme cases, a deep, insatiable hunger. The Gyaos, Dracodontos erythroptera, is one of the few animals that seem to target human prey, not because they evolved to do so, but simply because it is an opportunity that presents itself, and they will do what they need to survive. The ancestors of modern Gyaos, chondrichthyons that diverged early during the clade's evolution, were capable of gliding out of the water, breaching in a manner similar to many modern species of fish in order to rid themselves of parasites and catch prey that was out of their reach. This behavior eventually developed into true powered flight as the clade developed wider and stronger pectoral fins that allowed them to catch wind currents, as well as stronger muscular attachments that allowed them to better adjust their position to gain lift and turn in flight. Their laterally flattened tail fins are further used to help propel them during takeoff, also acting as rudders during flight, the development of these traits coinciding with a general loss of mass, achieved through a reduction of muscle in non-essential areas. Once the ancestors of the Gyaos had perfected this lifestyle, further adaptations appeared that would help increase the amount of time they would spend out of the water. For instance, their gills became capable of closing off in order to hold water within them as they flew, and they would eventually develop highly vascularized muscle tissue around the insides of their mouth, helping them take in oxygen directly from the air around them, enough to let them hunt and eat out of the water, but not yet allowing them to completely abandon their watery habitat. Furthermore, they are still vulnerable to dehydration, and the sun and heat can very easily cause them to lose moisture, meaning they will usually leave the water at night, when the danger of dehydration is much lower. Finally, the cartilage found in their pelvic and pectoral fins extended out of their skin, forming a series of small claw-like projections that would help them hold on to the rocks while feeding and surveying, as well as acting like graspers during mating behavior. Their new hunting style is very energetically taxing, but equally effective. Still, it is not sustainable at a constant rate, since it relies on high prey abundance for the Gyaos to feed. Therefore, these predators have developed alternating feeding and hibernation cycles, coinciding with population blooms of prey animals in their habitat. During the colder months of the year, Gyaos will rest within deep underwater caves in a state of torpor, their metabolic rates being heavily decreased in order to reduce their need for sustenance. While their eyesight would be of little use in these dark caves, ancestral Gyaos developed large bodies of cartilage along their jaws, which could be vibrated to produce a sonar-like sense, allowing them to find their way through the darkness, and even catching an occasional snack should the opportunity present itself. Once the hotter months arrive and the populations of their prey bloom, Gyaos will emerge from their caves, feeding ravenously on anything they can find, including fish, mollusks, birds, and even baby gameras. They will feed as much as they can in preparation for a new hibernation cycle, but also, very importantly, for the upcoming mating season. Gyaos will gather in great numbers to mate, but unlike in most species, these gatherings will not be composed of males and females, but exclusively of females, at least at first. This is because Gyaos are protogynous, meaning all individuals are naturally female, and, once gathered, the largest females will change into males, similar to other fish species, like wrasses, and will afterwards mate with as many available females as it can. Each female will produce around half a dozen eggs, which will be extruded within individual casings, similar to many other species of chondrichthyans. These eggs are likely to finish developing during the hibernation phase of the Gyaos life cycle, and upon finishing their development will enter diapause, halting their hatching until the feeding season arrives, or extending it even further in response to adverse environmental conditions, only hatching once said conditions become more favorable and the newborn Gyaos are more likely to survive. Gyaos count themselves among the few chondrichthyans that are known to produce toxic secretions in their bodies, which will mainly be used as a means to defend themselves from predators. They will secrete these toxins through highly permeable patches on their skin that connect directly to the venom glands, and the way this venom is dispersed varies depending on when it is used. Gyaos that are being pursued in flight will simply spray it as a fine mist, causing their pursuers to dive into it headfirst, while resting Gyaos will constantly groom themselves, in the process drenching their claws in the toxins they produce. Whenever they use these claws to defensively strike at potential predators, they will inject these toxins into any wounds produced, causing incredible pain. In recent times, it was discovered that these toxins are mutagenic at high concentrations, and while natural predators are unlikely to ever absorb a dosage high enough to produce observable effects in their offspring, experimentation has led to much more noticeable results. Stressed and pursued Gyaos have even been known to vomit the highly acidic contents of their stomach at attackers, but their main weapon when dealing with larger predators was developed as a byproduct of their sonar, as vibrating their mandibular cartilage at high enough speeds will allow them to produce powerful pressure waves capable of stunning larger animals and killing smaller prey. As Gyaos evolved into aerial organisms, this weapon became finely tuned to be usable on the much less dense medium that is air, making the task of catching flying prey much easier. Fossil evidence shows that some ancient species developed huge, bifurcated sonar organs that made this weapon much more powerful. This, alas, also reduced their general mobility, particularly in terms of their spine and head, setting them on a route of over-specialization that would leave them unable to adapt and compete with their relatives, leading to their extinction in the long run. And, speaking of evolutionary tendencies, modern population genetic studies have only increased the mystique of the Gyaos. While subspecies can be found all across the coasts of the Pacific Ocean, particularly along the western coasts, genetic markers do not correspond with natural divergence, showing, instead, evidence of a population bottleneck having taken place at around 1000 years BC, before natural selection and genetic drift kicked back in. Supporting evidence obtained through archaeological surveys indicates the population that would eventually diversify across this region was a result of a domestication process by seafaring civilizations in the area, who selectively bred these creatures with the intent of using them as fishing aids and, potentially, as a weapon in conflicts against other nearby civilizations. The ancestral domesticated population derived from this process was significantly altered from its natural state, presenting a larger, leaner body, as well as bright bands formed across their fins. People seeing modern Gyaos in the wild would likely believe the idea of domesticating such an animal as folly, and they would be right in doing so. Despite the attempts to use these creatures, evidence shows domesticated Gyaos attacks on the populations of the area increased exponentially, leading to the same civilization that created them abandoning this project and culling most of the population in the span of a couple decades, with a few feral populations intermixing with wild Gyaos and leading to the diversity seen in the present. Modern militaries, as eager to harm us always, have taken advantage of modern technologies in an attempt to reinitiate the use of these animals in whichever way is available. And the abominations that have resulted from this process, well, they will fill episodes of their own in the future. And that's it for a speculative biology look into Gyaos, a fun little way to celebrate Kaiju. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on this month. So, fun thing, I just watched camera films for the first time while working on this episode. And well, let's just say maybe I shouldn't have started with the ones that were free online. They were free for a reason. But they did give me a very fun look at this and other funky kaiju we might see in the future. So there's that. One of the main reasons we went for a Chondrichthyon was how much Gyaos' face, at least in the earlier versions, reminded me of a shark, with that tiny bit of inspiration informing how the entire creature would end up going. Gyaos also has a list of powers that, while not nearly as extensive as Gamera's, still included quite a bit of disparate little things to take into consideration, including poisonous mists and claws, sound beams, and even fire breath. And I did my best to include all of them, even if some stuff had to be simplified for the sake of plausibility. And finally, their life cycle helped cement the way they tend to change form in the movies, also making this a Stealth Pride episode, yay! So with that, I hope you guys had fun. I know a lot of y'all have been asking for more kaiju from the Gamera series, so thank you all for commenting and asking to see them. Please let me know what other kaiju from these or other franchises you'd like me to take a look at. And also, thank you to our researchers and research associates who support us through Patreon and YouTube memberships. If you too would like to take a peek behind the curtain to help us make these eps and see them before anyone else, you can do so too by joining our Patreon. And you also support our channel while doing so, which is nice and I really appreciate it. Or you can also like, subscribe, or write a comment telling me any type of creature you would like me to give the Spekibo treatment in the show. Any of those really help the channel a lot. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time on the Speculative Wildlife Research Center.